And welcome to the We Not Boxed In podcast. I am your host, Trey Larkin. Sitting alongside me is Cincinnati Bearcats legend, Melvin Levett. What's up, Mel? What's going on, Trey? Not much, not much. You in the house with the We Not Boxed In crew on this Monday, June the 16th. How was your weekend, Mel?
Great. Another nice, restful weekend with being off from AAU basketball tournaments. That seems to have taken up a lot of time in the summer for me, but had a weekend off, man. Had a chance to enjoy a pretty nice, lax, blessed Father's Day yesterday, as hopefully, a lot of fathers around here in the city had a chance to do, or around the country, period.
Yeah.
But especially for some of the guys that I know, hopefully yourself, our guest here tonight, Mr. Mercer, they had a great one yesterday.
Absolutely, absolutely. Big shout out to all the fathers out there, all across the nation. Father's Day is a special day. I feel like sometimes we don't appreciate fathers enough and what we bring to the table. But big shout out to all the fathers across the nation. I had a great weekend as well. Saturday I went to a wedding. Yeah, wedding. That was a great story.
I saw some stuff online, some pictures of you. So that's where you were.
Yeah, I was at a wedding on Saturday.
You looking pretty slick.
Appreciate that.
Slick, man.
Appreciate that, man. I try to get cleaned up when I can.
Ugly.
For the most part. But yeah, it was a great turnout at the wedding for sure. And then, like I said yesterday, got an opportunity to spend some time with my kids yesterday. We went swimming late in the day yesterday. That's what they wanted to do. So I was able to do that. And then got the chance to swim with my dad a little bit. He was under the weather. So we probably do something next week. But it was a great Father's Day overall.
Any gifts?
Any gifts? My kids didn't give me no gifts yet. Not yet.
All right, okay.
Not yet. But honestly, their presence
Just
alone is a gift for me. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Always the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Everybody also, don't forget, each and every Monday, we have the We Not Boxed In podcast here with myself and Melvin. Every Monday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. here at Park Place in Forest Park. So any sports topics that you want to discuss, come up here to Park Place. We ain't running. We right here each and every Monday discussing the latest in sports news. We got an action jam-packed show tonight, man.
It's a big exciting.
Exciting show. We have a special guest appearance from Craig Mercer a little bit later on in the show. Definitely excited about that. And then we're going to discuss the Cincinnati Bengals situation with Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart left OTAs over the weekend. And so we're going to talk about that. And also,
We're controversial.
yeah, it's controversy for sure. Chime in, Bengal fans. We want y'all opinion on the Shamar Stewart situation and with him and the Bengals. It's a standoff right now. Me and Bill will talk about that a little bit later on in the show. And don't forget, Friday, July the 18th, we have the volleyball showcase at West High School. That's Friday, July the 18th, the volleyball showcase at West High School. For more information, reach out to On Impact Recruiting Services. And the next day, Saturday, July the 19th, we have the third annual Stop the Violence Boxing Expo. That's Saturday, July the 19th, the third annual Stop the Violence Boxing Expo as well. And don't forget our sponsors. We got Beyond Water, Park Place, OTR, Wise Guys. So, yeah, those are the sponsors. Go and get some Beyond Water. It's definitely great water for you.
It's Pawnee.
Yeah, Pawnee. First story. So, let's dive into some NBA, Mel, and let's talk about the NBA Finals as we have a matchup tonight in Game 5. It's the Indiana Pacers and OKC Thunder. Tip-off is 8:30 p.m. The Thunder are favored by 9.5 points. The over-under is 223.5. But Game 4, Friday night, OKC beat Indiana 111-104. For the Thunder, SGA had 35 points, shot 12 of 24 from the floor, 8 assists. Jalen Williams chipped in with 25 points, 7 rebounds. For the Pacers, Pascal Siakam finished with 20 points, 8 rebounds. So, Mel, we're heading into Game 5 tonight. Series is tied at 2 games apiece. So after watching games 1 through 4, what is your biggest takeaway from the NBA Finals so far?
They've been pretty good.
Absolutely.
Games have been great. They came down to some really crucial situations. Guys have obviously stepped up individually with their star power. But overall, it's been very entertaining, man. I've enjoyed it. I've been glued into each game, start to finish. Years past, I usually did other things while the game was going on, just to kind of pass the time, come back and watch. But
yeah,
these games between these guys have been really, 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 really impressive and obviously very entertaining. So for me, I'm very happy.
Absolutely. And I feel like watching the finals has been a great final so far. And let's be honest, we were wrong. I was wrong. I'm not sure about you, but I was wrong. I underestimated the Indiana Pacers coming into the NBA Finals. I said Thunder is 6, but I didn't expect it to go this way. I was hoping and praying for a 6-game series. Now we are for sure going to get a 6-game series. I was hoping and praying that the Thunder didn't put the Pacers out in 5 games.
I was thinking it was going to be a situation like, Thunder go up 3-1.
Yeah.
And then the Pacers come back and win that second game.
Absolutely.
That was my fortune with OKC winning that next game to kind of get the series over with. So,
yeah.
But to see them now at 2-2, again, a little underestimating on my part as well. But we talked about before the resiliency of the Indiana Pacers team. We talked about their patience. We talked about just how, relentless they really are.
Yeah.
And it is played and reared its head in certain situations in these games, and have kept them in the series. So again, we're 2-2. Tonight is obviously a huge one.
Yeah.
Some say whoever wins Game 5 is going to win the series. So we'll see.
Absolutely. And specifically when it comes to Game 4, I thought Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault, I thought he did something in this series that changed the trajectory of this series. I thought in Game 4, he rested SGA in the first quarter, like the final 3 minutes. He didn't play the entire first quarter like he normally does. That gave SGA enough energy to close the deal for OKC in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, SGA scored 15 of the Thunder's final 16 points. And so, as great as Tyrese Halliburton has been from a game-winning shot perspective, I believe SGA is the actual closer. Just because you hit a game-winning shot, that doesn't make you a closer. What makes you a closer is your ability to take the game over in the final 4 minutes or 3 minutes and bring the game home for your team. Tyrese Halliburton hits big shots. SGA is the ultimate closer, and he put on an MVP caliber performance in Game 4. Because if they go down 3-1, I believe the series is over. I believe the series would have been over.
A lot of people's mind it could have been if that would have happened.
Yeah.
But like you said, Shea got that star power, man. He's the MVP for a reason. Mike check. Here we go. He creates things, and he gets to that free throw line, man. But as you said, it was 12 for 24 from the field, and that's being pretty good, at your skill. So having them rested, obviously, again for the last quarter was very important because again, he was able to kind of put pedal to the metal, use his skill level to score and get to where he needed to. Obviously, the big 3-pointer was huge to cut the lead to 1, but coming right back the next play. And making that play where a lot of people think he pushed off and things like that, or maybe, maybe even travel before he shot the ball, but still coming back that next play and having that wherewithal and having that killer in him to say, hey, I'm going to take this shot, I'm going to be the guy. That's the difference.
Yeah, SGA scored 15 points in the final 4 minutes and 38 seconds of the game, when in the previous 43 minutes, he had 20 points, Mel. So big shout out to Mark Daigneault. I thought coming into the NBA Finals, the Pacers had an advantage from a head coaching standpoint because Rick Carlisle is more proven than Mark Daigneault is. And I also was critical of Daigneault. After the Pacers went up 2-1 over the Thunder, I was critical of Mark Daigneault because coming into the finals, the Thunder were 80 18, I believe. And then had the same starting five all season long. And he inserted Caston Wallace and benched Isaiah Hartenstein. And I'm like, well, why would you make this move? And you are 4 wins away from an NBA championship. So I was critical of Dagnall before he made the adjustment in game 4 when he rested SGA in the first quarter. I believe, Bill, that was the difference because that was what was able to bring the Thunder home was SGA being well rested and prepared to close in the fourth quarter. Because I thought in game 3, I believe SGA ran out of gas.
Well, they talked about it was going to be kind of like a war off the benches, so to speak. Who's going to be in shape, so to speak, toward the end of the game. And the coaches were, kind of doing this chess battle, so to speak, or a chess match as far as who they were taking out at a certain time in the game. And to be strategic that way to keep guys rested so guys can't have gas towards the end. Indiana got things kind of reversed on them in a sense where they were the fourth quarter team. But Oklahoma City came back past the game and trumped them in the fourth quarter. I mean, really trumped them pretty bad. Kind of made themselves the fourth quarter team. Whereas, again, you expected Indiana to kind of put the foot down. And, I mean, they were in a position to win it. They up 10 late. There were some weird things that kind of took place, towards the end of the game, kind of out of the box. We're boxed in here on the show. We're not boxed in on the show. So this comment kind of goes with it. So it was kind of out of the box to have 2 fouls called without the ball being inbound. You know what I mean? And when you're down in a situation where you got to kind of get the ball in to kind of get a foul, something like that, that gave OKC a couple extra opportunities to go to the free throw line or at least inbound the ball to run some clock. So having those 2 things happen was really out of the box. And then obviously Matherin going 0 for 3 the free throw line, still in a crucial time.
It's 3 critical free throws.
It was still in a moment where Indiana still had a chance, I feel like, to make a move. But then the biggest thing to me, man, was looking at Siakam as, we say earlier, he was going to be a key in the series, versatility, matchups, sometimes with size and all that. Finally has the game that we've been looking for. As the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. You know what I'm saying? 20-8. He doesn't see the ball the last 4 or 5 possessions of the game.
That's why I was going next.
So you were kind of left with that thought of, okay, well, why didn't he see the ball? Whereas you're looking at the shots that were taken, they say that they were pretty good shots. They were open shots, but I think they were tough ones on top of it. You know what I mean? They were big shots that have been made before. I think you got to go to your guy who's been hot for you, and Siakam was the guy at that time. And we didn't get a chance to see some late game heroics from him.
Pascal Siakam only 1 shot in the fourth quarter, only 1 shot. That is inexcusable if you're the Indiana Pacers. And this is the thing, Bill. I believe everybody's talking about how OKC closed the game on a 12-1 run, how OKC dominated the fourth quarter. Me personally, I feel as if the Pacers lost this game at the end of the third quarter. They were up. I believe they were up like 10 points. And there were 3 straight possessions. The Pacers didn't score any points. And at that moment in the game, the Thunder, honestly, they were really fluttering and it was chaos. I thought it was an opportunity at the third quarter for the Pacers to create separation and be up at least 15 points going into the fourth quarter. Instead, they were only up 7. And I believe that's where they lost the game. Everybody's talking about the 12-1 run and how the Thunder outscored the Pacers in the fourth quarter. No, the Pacers lost this game at the end of the third quarter when they could have been up 15. Instead, they were only up 7. And that was the biggest difference in the game. Big shout out also to Alex Caruso. He had 20 points in game 4. Shot 7 of 9 from the floor. So Alex Caruso was a key X factor for the OKC Thunder. And so for me, Neil, we sit here going into game 5 tonight. The Pacers stole 1 in game 1. You can make an argument that the Thunder stole 1 in game 4. And here we are tied at 2 games apiece. And both of these teams seem to be evenly matched. But for me, when I think about these NBA playoff series, when two teams are evenly matched, normally, what's the biggest difference in that series? Whoever has the best player usually wins those particular series. And unlike the Pacers, OKC has a guy in SGA that is a superstar who's the NBA MVP, who you could give the ball to. We're watching it right now. Who you could give the ball to in those clutch moments and say, "Take me to the promised land," like the Bulls had with MJ, like the Lakers had with the late great Kobe Bryant, like the Warriors had with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, like the Cavaliers had with LeBron James for so many years. So to me, when two teams are equally matched, usually the team that has the best player normally comes out on top in these particular playoff series. So that's why I believe the Thunder do have an advantage over the Pacers in these final three games, potentially.
You need a monster, in situations like this. Obviously, you talk about, alluding to a lot of the guys on past teams that we've watched in the finals, take an opportunity to take control. I'm still a team guy. I believe strength in numbers. I believe, you can have that one guy to kind of get you over the hump. But as the Pacers have been doing and the Pacers have showed, when Obi Toppin, Miles Turner, Matherin, McConnell, those guys are contributing. They have success.
Absolutely.
So, looking at last game, they all had the same success. So I'm looking for the same type of thing here in Game 5. I'm looking for Indiana to come out and use all of the tools that they have and kind of try to get it done. I still believe in the fact that they still do have a chance to possibly win this series. Ultimately, I did pick OKC. A lot of minds have changed, obviously, around the country with watching. But at the same time, again, I do think Indiana has a system, have a concept through Rick Carlisle that they can kind of be successful and they can get this thing done. But again, as you talk about, it is important to have a mainstay, a guy you can really throw the ball to. And Indiana hasn't really shown that they have that one guy that can do that.
One more thing before we go. You got this 1-7?
It's hard to say. I don't want to keep changing my pick and things like that and changing, the outset. But, it depends. And it's this another out of the box weird thing, so to speak, that Mr. Windhorst talked about today, Brian Windhorst. When the Pacers score 111, they're 20-0. What is it about 111? Why does it have to be a odd number? You know what I mean? And I'm coached by numbers, so that was very intriguing to hear that. So Pacers tonight, if they're around that pace to get that over 111, man, you got to look at them to possibly win this game. So we'll see.
I even though I believe these two teams are evenly matched, I do believe we are heading for a 7-game series, Mel, for sure. But we definitely will maybe perhaps get into the NBA Finals a little bit later on in the show as well. Everybody go and follow Wise Guys Sports and on Impact Recruiting Services and Mr. Melvin Levett himself on all social media platforms. It's the We Not Boxed In podcast. We'll be right back.
My superpower is probably patience and encouragement. These days, kids are feeling really inadequate. They're not feeling like they have it in them to do something they've never done before. We need to create a place that was hands-on, that was a fun environment, that allowed kids to be creative and allowed kids a safe place to get it wrong. What drives me are those aha moments, those moments where you see the kid, they get it. And I tell you what, I live for that moment. Because when you give them an opportunity to approach it at their level and then add in sprinklings of the challenge, and they've got to kind of race themselves and maybe other students in order to get there, they're tenacious about it. They're excited about it. And when they achieve it, that is the greatest joy. That is what the Cincy STEM Lab is all about. Our job is about helping them build their confidence. It's about making the learning process different, fun, and very approachable. And STEM and science and tech and engineering and math is becoming a lot less scary to them. The problems that we are facing in the 21st century with climate change and access to electricity and energy, these are the jobs that have the money. We have to have all hands on deck for that type of work. And that is what we are here to do, to expose students, no matter how little money you have to how much money you have, how much you think you know and how much you don't know, and to help build their confidence so that they are ready to step out in STEM and say, here I am, this is exactly where I was supposed to be.
We up here each and every Monday. You got a specific topic you want to discuss, you want to talk about, come up here. We can talk about it on the We Not Box In podcast. Any athletes out there.
Coming back.
One.
Trace coming back.
And welcome back to the We Not Boxed In podcast with yours truly, Trey Larkins and Melvin Levett. Don't forget, go and follow Wise Guy Sports and Melvin Levett and on Impact Recruiting Services on all social media platforms. We want to welcome to the show. He's a former assistant, basketball coach at Huntington Expression Prep Basketball, and the husband and father of the Mercer boys, Mr. Craig Mercer himself. What's up, Craig?
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Pretty good. Appreciate you coming on the show tonight. And Mel, I know we got a bunch of questions we have for Craig tonight on the show.
Yeah, this whole opportunity here, man, just to kind of discuss some of the things that we talked about off camera a little bit. But just an opportunity, man, just to shine a light on your family. You know, the story, as we talked about, is a great, obviously, family story. Local kids, man, doing what a lot of the local kids or kids around the country are striving to do. These young men have put themselves in a position early to take it to the next level. And again, this conversation amongst us tonight is just an opportunity to, again, get to know you guys as a family, get to know, possibly Cameron and Jaden a little bit more personally, and shed some light on, just the experience as a parent, being involved, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Just to start things off, there were some huge developments in the whole NIL process through the University of Cincinnati is where I got my work from, pretty much. And there was some very, very telling things in this whole new NIL agreement, settlement, so to speak, that's going to be starting here July 1st, which kind of changes things athletically when you talk about kids being able to, get paid for their likeness and things like that, and obviously the type of money that's possibly going to be involved. Again, we're talking about your sons here tonight. They're going to have that opportunity to be in this realm, so to speak, of what we're talking about with NIL and likeness and being paid for certain things. Looking at that, this new change, as we spoke about a little bit off camera, he used to, maybe elaborate a little bit on some of the things that you may have heard or what you can expect out of Cameron and Jalen, or what level you can expect Cameron and Jalen to be at as far as the NIL process.
So truly, we're just taking the process one day at a time. So I don't want to get too far ahead of anything as far as like where I expect them to be, or you know what I mean. Like I don't want to put the cart before the horse, so to say. So like the process with like NIL, like Cameron has signed with Honey Water, great company. One of his first NIL deals. He's also signed with 24 Karat, great company out in Phoenix, clothing brand. That's got some exciting things in the works. Really exciting things. Like we're doing a August 2nd. We're going to announce that we're doing a back to school backpack giveaway at Winton Woods High School. Super excited about that because I just want Cameron and Jalen to get involved and giving back to community service and doing things to just help our community. I know recently we ran a camp for Cameron at Winton Woods High School. We want to continue to do that every year, and we want it to be completely free.
Yeah.
We want it to be, we want to market it to, some underprivileged kids who may not be able to afford it. Because like basketball's kind of gotten to a space where it's an expensive sport.
Yeah, very.
So like, like years ago, it wasn't as expensive. Even like when you were coming up, right? A lot of kids played at the park. So like, but the changes that's been made over the last like 5 or 10 years, like it's really hard for some underprivileged kids who may be like, just financially, their parents may not be able to get them to certain places and get them to certain, get them to certain things. Like, so we just want to be able to let those kids have that type of experience by running those kids every year. So that's some stuff that we have in the works.
So, obviously, for people that don't know, Cameron Mercer, is one of the, if not, I mean, he obviously is #1 here in the state, basketball wise, but nationally has made his mark. And you're representing the USA here, obviously on set, and he was just part of the USA FIBA 16 under basketball team who brought home the gold medal, and not just on the team. Cameron went out there and put in work. Looking at some of his numbers here, 13 and 5 against Mexico, 4 assists, 2 steals. I mean, obviously, when I first saw him play, the first thing I had thought about was, how long he is. And as a basketball player, when you have length, you're able to kind of stretch your arms out, wingspan-wise, or put them up over the top of your head, creates more opportunities for deflections, steals, all those good things. So looking at him and his body structure, I was saying to myself, that's a stat sheet stuffer. You know what I mean? And obviously looking at some of the numbers, he has points, measurements in every single category. If you're going to be a commodity nowadays, if you're going to play at a high level, being able to stuff the stat sheet is, a pretty good important thing. So he's got a lot going for him in that favor. But obviously 6'5", he's got the height, he's got the athletic ability. I've seen the kid jump, get off the floor. He's developing that jump shot. But one of the things that really, really stuck out to me the most in watching him in the main event, a couple other things online, was the go-getter attitude that he's got. I guess Killer is the nickname for a reason, because he's got that in his game already. Yeah, if you're going to be one of the elite basketball players, or considered to be one of the elite, and participate or compete at the top level, you got to have some dog. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Just talk to me a little bit about that development, that side of the game.
So like that, I would say that's probably came around the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Cameron's been, he's been I wouldn't say like softer early on, 3rd, 4th grade, but like I would say, 6th, 7th grade is when you started to see a little bit of that streak, that dog. Where you're like, okay, he's got some of that in him. You know what I mean? But did he always have it? Not at the level that he does now. You know what I mean? And I think he's continuing to grow, like, as far as that part of his game.
Yeah.
And that comes with just the preparation, right? And just being prepared and being confident. You know what I mean? I think that's where some of that dogness comes from a lot of kids, right? Just, that's what brings it out of him.
I saw him doing some work early, online with some trainers out of state, things like that. Training is huge nowadays with development of skill, but getting that opportunity early to kind of see what's out there outside of Cincinnati, I think, is a key, to a lot of kids, and a lot of young athletes' success. Showing them that there is more to it. You know what I mean? There's more to what you're kind of living on, exposing them to more outside of this. You know what I mean? Broadens so much.
For sure. So I think, like you said, he was just down in Tampa with his agency, Easy Sports. Shout out to Corey Markham. But like that is big, right? It puts him with some pros. Lets him see what that level of training looks like.
Oh yeah,
right? Like from a high school, college, to a pro level, you can kind of see, what those dudes. Like he was working out with J.D. Davidson. Right?
Yeah.
He was one of the top G League players. And you can kind of see, what that really looks like. So like, having Corey and having Easy to help provide some of those resources. Like that's super important to continue his development and his growth.
Right. So for Cameron, obviously playing for Team USA and helping Team USA win the gold medal, Craig, what do you believe is the biggest lesson, and what did it teach Cameron, as his father from afar? What do you feel like is the biggest thing that he learned going through that experience playing for Team USA and winning the gold medal?
That was huge. So the number one thing he learned at Team USA, I don't know if a lot of people probably watch the games. I mean, he was 10th, 11th, 12th man, right? He's been regarded as one of the top players in his class for the last 3 or 4 years. Number 5 ESPN, right? And Team USA, it's a little bit different, right? You gotta make sacrifices, right? So they come with 12 guys. And somebody's got to be the 9th, 10th, 11th man, right? And like that right there, I believe was big for him. It actually motivated, right? To call me up. When you're a really good player, you're like, I'm better than maybe the 11th or 12th man, right?
Because you got to sacrifice.
Like you got to make the sacrifice.
For your school, you make the best player.
But knowing that, you still made an impact, obviously still going to win the gold medal. It was huge, but the lesson that he learned there, or the stuff that he got from it, was priceless.
Get paid for it. Know that experience alone, man. Just again, the pageantry of it all. You watch Olympic sports, on TV as a kid.
Yeah.
But then you're there in an Olympic type atmosphere as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can imagine, the feeling, the overwhelming joy that he had experiencing that, like you talk about the sacrifices that he had to make, being one of the top players in his state, in this area, and then now in this juncture with this group, having to sacrifice his skill level for, obviously some kids or coaches thought maybe that were a little bit better, or maybe ran things a little bit differently, offensively, structure-wise. But for him to make that sacrifice and not pout, hang his head. He was ready for his moments. He went out there, and obviously, again, the 2 games that he had, did very, very well.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just staying ready. Right?
Yeah.
Because, as you go along that journey, you may get to college, you may get to the pros. How are you going to react when you're not the guy? Yeah. Right? Can you fit in? Can you play a role? Can you come off the bench? Yeah. Like all that stuff plays a factor.
Which is huge now in this NBA Finals that we're watching, because they were just speaking about, Mather not playing a long time, and all of a sudden we got him rejected into the lineup. Yeah. A couple of the guys that are now all of a sudden playing minutes here in the finals. It's about being a professional, and again, about being ready. And like you said, Cam acting professional and being ready for his moment.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, but just bringing up Reed Shepherd and who's the guy from Minnesota? Rob Dillingham.
Yeah. Right.
They both came off the bench.
Yeah.
Top 10 picks.
Yeah.
That played a part in it, right? Because coaches are saying, he can accept the role. He's willing to come off the bench. He's willing to develop, or maybe play behind some guys until he grows and take it to his own. So that type of stuff is huge in continuing to try to navigate this journey.
Absolutely. To your point, about the NBA Finals, Tommy Halliburton barely played in the Olympics when the Team USA won the gold medal this past year. Barely played.
That was kind of funny when I watched that Netflix special. Yeah, he was kind of like him and Anthony Edwards were in the background of everything, but yet ended up being the 2 guys. Maybe they play on front end.
Jason Tatum has some DNPs.
Yeah.
In the Olympics.
Yeah. Which was crazy.
He's a max contract guy. But that just shows so USA is a little different than anything, right? It's about coming together, one common goal, and trying to win a goal for the country.
And what about you, as his father, from a basketball standpoint, Greg? What do you feel like when you get that experience? What do you feel like? How do you feel like it's going to help him moving forward in his basketball journey, just on the basketball floor itself?
It's huge. Number one, like I said before, it kind of lit a fire under him, right? It helped motivate him, because you have to find little things, in my opinion, to continue to motivate you. Yeah. Along the way. You know what I mean? Obviously you have to stay consistent, you have to stay disciplined, but you use those little things that, maybe, you were the 6th or 7th man and you thought you should have been a starter. How do you react to that? Right? So I believe the Team USA experience is gonna help propel Cameron's journey as we continue to go through this thing.
Now, college-wise, obviously, he's got the pick of the litter, and that litter is going to get even bigger, so to speak, as far as his options to go as far as colleges. Again, we're, as kids growing up, our ultimate dream is to, play college basketball if we're in that sport, or college football, college whatever. Being that is that you guys are in this situation, parents obviously talk about, getting that opportunity to possibly pay for school, having school paid for free. Being a parent, obviously, things like that, obviously, a lot of different other responsibilities. You talk about the other kids that you guys have. How much of a blessing is that when you can look, or you can come online every day like you do and go, congrats, big fella. There's another offer from something. How does that feel to you as a captain?
It's definitely a great feeling. I would say, like, when we first started this journey, that's literally what it's about. Free education.
Yeah.
Right? Let's use the sport to try to get a free education. Right? And like through that journey, it started to become more and more and more realistic as we're getting closer. Right? And to have two boys that are looking right now like they're gonna play college football and basketball and get a free education. I can't even really put it into words, right? It's really special.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, how much more time we got? We good? All right, well, we can obviously come back to Cam here in a little bit. We just want to jump obviously into Jalen. Another juggernaut of an athlete that we're looking at here. 6'5", 230 pounds. Defensive end. Is it edge rusher?
Yeah, he's listed as a defensive end, but he plays all over. He plays in, he plays inside, he plays outside. This year he's going to get a chance to play some tight end as well, so they're going to put him in a couple offensive packages, so I'm excited about that.
That's good. He's definitely got the body for it.
But he's probably closer to 270. Okay. We got him at 230.
Okay.
He's a big
bigger. Put on some more. All right.
He's about 270.
Find a little bit more food at the grocery store. We gotta stock the freezer a little bit more.
We can't afford to feed him. That's correct.
Now, is Jalen more of an offensive guy or defensive guy from your perspective?
Oh, defense.
Defense.
Defensive guy. 100%.
Well, you got him, he's ranked 3 to 4 stars, amongst a lot of the athletes here, nationally. Obviously, again, man, looking at his list of schools, it's just a who's who. And, and again, it's exciting, man. I'm a teacher at Wynwoods. I've been in every building except for the high school building as far as an educator. So I have a chance to see a lot of kids pass through from the 3rd grade level. And if they get a chance to stay throughout the district, I get a chance to see them walk through our building as 12th graders for graduation. So the last several years, I've been having an opportunity to see these kids obviously mature as young students, but then on the field in their respective sports, I've watched them take that jump. So with obviously this being, as you said, Jalen's upcoming last year.
This is junior year.
It's junior year, okay.
Yes,
so I still have an opportunity to catch him walking through to maybe give me a picture or something like that. But again, that's what's the exciting part of being in this community is watching these kids grow. And then obviously watching them successfully take things that take place out there on the football field or on the basketball court. These kids are out here, they're amazing athletes, and the coaches that are working with them do a fabulous job. So shout out to Wynwoods, who's right up the street from us. Obviously Jalen Mercer being a Wynwoods kid, so we wanted to obviously, make sure we say hello to the Wynwoods faithful. But looking at his chances and things like that. What has been, you think, some of his challenges, so to speak, in trying to navigate this process?
So his path's been a lot different than Cameron, just from a fact of so we live in the Princeton School District. But the kids decided they wanted to go to Winton Woods when it was time to go to high school. So Jalen transferred to Winton Woods for his freshman year, and he didn't, he thought he was better than that first year. Was a lot of adversity, right? He was a freshman trying to play varsity football, right, which is very, very, very hard to do. Just from a physicality standpoint, like a lot of kids just aren't physically ready enough to play varsity football. So he had to play a role, right? He had to come in. He was a spot minute guy, or a spot play guy, where he would come in and a couple snaps here, a couple snaps there,
blowout,
stuff like that. Yeah. And then last year, was a full-time starter, and then kind of started growing into his own. But he's came up the grimy way. Like he hasn't, everything hasn't been given to him. He's had to earn everything. So I'm super excited for his future. The college coaches were just able to start reaching out the other night at midnight. I mean, his phone is blowing up. So it's just exciting for him to see, Lincoln Riley reach out to him, right? USC coach, and Jim Knowles, and all these different head coaches, reaching out to him and saying, "Hey, Jaden, we want to start building this relationship with you." So it's super cool. Super cool.
And obviously, Will Woods, they went to the playoffs and back-to-back seasons, Fred, under Chad Murphy. How do you feel like when it comes to playing that program for the Winton Woods Warriors, which is a good high school football program? How do you feel like it's made Jalen better as a player heading into his junior year?
Hats off to Chad Murphy and Carlton Gray. Carlton Gray is the defensive coordinator. Super smart. He has a lot of the Winton Woods kids prepared to play at the college level immediately.
Played professionally himself. Played professionally himself.
So he was UCLA Academic All-American, played in the NFL. But he's done a really good job getting these Winton Woods kids prepared to play right away. Like there's a lot of kids in Winton Woods that are having success at the Division I level. Right? That's how you get the respect of the program, because you get Jermaine Matthews at Ohio State, freshman of the year, and you got other guys going and having key roles in big time schools, and then they start saying, "Whoa, they must be doing something right over there." Right? So I think Carlton Gray's doing an amazing job preparing the kids, teaching them really how to play the game. You know what I mean? Like I would say, I know a lot of high schools, they play a lot of man to man. Yeah. Right? Just line up, play man to man. Like he's teaching them how to coverages and how to roll coverages and just really understand, and kids being able to get up on the whiteboard. Yeah, like being able to get on the whiteboard and draw plays and really understand what's going on, not just man to man grind out. So I think the coaching at Winton Woods is next level. And that's a testament to, I don't know how many kids they had go D1, but the numbers are crazy. Like last year, I don't know what the exact numbers is. They've got 15, 20 kids, Division I. It's crazy.
There was one couple years back where I read that more Division I scholarships offered given to kids than Fuller, X, and Elder put together that 1 year. It was a wild stat, something like that I read. And I wouldn't exaggerate too much just to make Winwood sound good, but they had more scholarships given to their athletes than I think 3 of those schools combined.
I believe it. Because just on the football side alone, they've done a tremendous job putting kids in college.
And that's the key, man. That's obviously the ultimate goal, is to obviously get these kids on to the next level. As you talked about having, the education paid for.
And what are your expectations for Jalen heading into his junior year?
Just continue to develop, get stronger, really work on his leadership. I would say leadership is probably going to be a big one. Just continuing to grow into his own. And he's got to put on some good tape this year, right? Colleges want to see some good tape, so just super excited for Jalen, and I can't wait to see Winton Woods football this year.
And for you Fred, obviously you got two sons who are playing great in their respective sports, and both are headed for playing college football and college basketball at the collegiate level. How do you balance though being Cameron and Jalen's dad? Because at the end of the day, you're still their dad, and you want what's best for them, but you also want them to get to the next level.
We got to take a quick break there. We'll come back, Craig, and give you the opportunity to answer that question.
2, 1.
And welcome back to the We Not Boxed In podcast with myself and Melvin, Levett, and sitting here with Craig Mercer. We're sitting here watching on the TVs here at Park Place. NBA Finals will tip off in about 28 minutes. See how the players getting shots up and shoot around for the NBA Finals. The Thunder got a 61% chance to win Game 5 tonight. Well, I'm not sure how y'all feel about that.
Well, they're home, right?
They're home.
I like them. I like those chances.
Like those chances with them. But Craig, let's get back to it. I want to ask you a question about being a father, because obviously when you have two great athletes like Jalen and Cameron, sometimes as a father, you can be so focused on trying to get them to the next level that you can forget, I'm still a father, I'm still their dad. How do you balance being a dad, but also trying to get Cameron and Jalen to the next level?
Because I seen you at a couple tournaments. I actually was standing maybe 2, 3 people away from you at one tournament.
I saw it too.
And you were doing like, I mean, you were in every moment. Again, you're living with your kid when you're out. He's out there. He's doing this thing. And you're moving your shoulders and you're trying to get that shot in with him. And he should have went to the hole that time. So I know you invested a lot, as far as emotions and things like that into what Cameron and Jalen is doing. So it's kind of cool to see you out there, with those body antics, and emotions and stuff like that. But as Trey alluded to, what has there been balancing?
It's the balance is I'm not gonna say it's hard, but you wanna obviously still be their dad, right? But I also wanna push them, and a lot of times I tell them the stuff that they don't want to hear. So I'm not the dad that I don't just blow smoke up their butt and tell them how great they are every day, right? If they're not working hard enough, I'm telling them, right? If I feel like Cameron is laxing, I let him know about it, right? And whether you get mad at me or not. So there is a fine line there, right? But I think just the blessing and just having those two, and just like I said, trying to balance that. It can get hard at times, just because I'm almost like I manage him in the sense of his day to day, making sure he's getting the training, making sure he's doing this, and making sure he's doing that, right? But then at the end of the day, we try to, we do some, father-son stuff. I still try to let them be kids.
At the end of the day,
yeah. So that's the main thing, right? Like Cameron loves to go to Kings Island and loves to go, amusement parks, and they go to Top Golf. They do stuff like that, right? So they hang out, and that stuff is, getting them away from the sport, right? You got, they're teenagers, right? So that time goes by so fast. But again, blessed to have those two, and I have an older boy as well that's grown, 20 years old. Super proud of him. He just does manly things, right? He works a job, has his own car. Don't ask me or my wife or anything, right? That's a blessing, right? So he takes care of himself, and my oldest boy is a great kid as well, right? And that's the main thing with all three of them is, being a great athlete is okay, and it's cool, and all that stuff that comes with it. But I really want them to be known about being great people.
Yeah.
Right. So that's super important. And when we really try to focus on that. And I think, the consensus around when people talk about my boys, they're great kids, right? Try to keep them humble, try to keep them grounded, even with all the stuff that they have going on.
Yeah, they're living a pretty business-like, almost professional-like life right now. You know what I mean? So you talk about pulling them away for a second to do for the father and son things, man. Going to a park to shoot hoop, going to an amusement park to just be a teenager. It's all important, and again, making them realize taking away from that for that moment to again allow them to be the youngsters that they really are, because they're gonna be again in this realm in the next couple of years. where it's going to be totally serious.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a lot of time for relaxation or fun times. It's going to be business and work.
Now, what's your oldest son's name?
My oldest son is Craig.
Great.
Yeah, so Craig, he's not a junior, but Craig Mercer. Yeah.
So what do you believe is one of the biggest lessons that Jalen and Cameron have learned from Craig as their oldest brother?
That's a great question. I think that they've learned, like, so my oldest son is super reserved, great kid, and I feel like outside of sports stuff, they've learned, how respectful he is, how he approaches every day, goes to work, wakes up every day, works 5 a.m. to 3. He's in bed before me and the wife, right? So like just he's super responsible. So I believe that kind of, Jalen and Cameron can see that, right? And kind of learn from that.
Excluding the second to last one, because they're young kids, and I know they video game, and I know they're on their phone, so they're not in the bed before you and your wife.
My oldest.
Or your oldest.
My oldest is.
No, I'm saying, but I know Cameron and Jalen are not.
No.
So, I can say though, listening to you talk about your oldest son, those are the things I think Jalen and Cam have taken from him. His responsibility, the way he conducts himself. Because listening to you, looking at your kids, that's how they approach things. They work, right? They put in hours on their craft. They're very approachable kids, but yet very respectful as well. So all those characteristics you talked about your older son has, I think your younger boys have already picked up on. And they exude those things automatically. At least that's what I've kind of observed myself. Cam is very mild-mannered. I've seen a couple games where some action got chippy, and he didn't buy in. He just shook his head, kept his cool demeanor, and went and did his thing. You know what I mean? So I haven't really seen Jalen in that moment yet, but I'm pretty sure that he's the same type of mild-mannered kid. But when you push that button, there goes that animal. You know what I mean?
And when Jalen and Cameron see that in their older brother, Craig, see how he's devoted and how dedicated he is, being with work ethic and going to bed on time and stuff like that, that makes them bring that to their respective sports and football and basketball. See that. Cool.
So, just talking about both boys and things like that. We had talked off the air a little bit about just the two personal sibling rivalry. I know I had an older brother who played basketball, and I had an older sister who didn't play sports at all, but it was a rivalry with us too because they were older. And it's like, when you got a younger brother, you do certain things, you pick on them and stuff like that. But are there any type of fun things that take place at home between the two guys? Like I said, we talked about, are there any wrestling matches that go on?
I wouldn't say no. I don't think they don't fight physically, but they're super competitive, right? I could know when Jalen used to always be able to beat Cameron one-on-one in basketball. Right? Even though Cam,
really?
So even though Cam was
didn't know that you got it now.
He's gonna be a better basketball player in the family. Jalen just being much more big and physical. He used to, it make it tough on him. Right? And I think that's where Cameron got a lot of his, that helped Cameron along the way. That's like a cheat code. Absolutely, right? It's like a cheat code, right? You got your bigger brother, kind of can bully you around a little bit, but super exciting.
That's actually what I wanted to ask too. I was going to ask in not necessarily a fun way, but in a competitive way. How do you believe Jalen and Cameron motivate each other to be better on the football field or on the basketball court, just from a working out standpoint? Do they sometimes ever get a chance to work out together and do things together? I know they both are busy, but how do they get a chance? How do they motivate each other from a competitive standpoint, just push each other to be at their absolute best?
So I think they do. So they don't really get a chance to work out together per se, just because Cameron lives away from home. And he's gone all the time, but I believe they motivate each other because they're both in the space and doing really big things, right? So when he sees Cameron, maybe certain accolades or whatever. I feel like Jalen wants to. I ain't gonna say match him, but you know what I mean. Wants to gain some more accolades as well, right? So then they kind of push each other in that sense.
Another thing that was interesting that we spoke about, maybe just kind of right now, elaborate on for a lot of parents, this is very important. As husband, what has been, or how did you navigate, just again, the things that you had to when it comes to traveling, being away, things like that? What has been some of those main obstacles as far as making sure that, the family element and everything kind of really sticks together?
So it's been tough. Me and Cam lived in Huntington this past school year. Literally just moved back within the last month or so. But just balancing that, like I would come back and see my wife as much as possible. Huntington was 2.5, 3 hours away. I would turn and burn. There were times with Jalen's football games, when he played on Friday nights. I would leave Huntington, at 2 o'clock, get to Cincinnati at 5, watch Jalen, and then go back. Turn right back around and go to Huntington.
Same night.
Just because I want him to know that I'm fully invested in him as well. So I didn't miss any of his football games. I lived in Huntington. I came back to all his games. Came back to see my wife as much as possible, because that's part of the sacrifice that we've made as a family. It's tough. Just being away from my wife, being away from my other 2 sons. But we're just trying to set our boys up for the best possible life.
Have you been starstruck with dating? Because I know you've been a lot of places, and we talked about traveling with your son to these events and being able to be in some of these places to see some of these high level people. Has there been anybody that you've seen so far, coaching wise, out there on the circuit that you've been like, man, I see that guy on TV. There he is.
Oh yeah. So just in Memphis, getting a chance to talk with Diebler, Jake Diebler, and seeing like Bill Self, right? Like, Kansas, he's a legend, right? So like that kind of stuff is super cool. Like just seeing some of those top college coaches, is exciting.
Absolutely. And so obviously having 3 successful sons, and we're going to include Craig in there as well. Craig Jr., how do you feel like it's made you better, Craig, as a man, seeing both of your sons obviously within their respective sports, going to the next level at some point to play college basketball, college football, and your oldest son, Craig, as well, being successful? How has it motivated you and made you a better man as their father?
Man, they made me who I am today. My 3 boys and my wife, my family, they keep me going. So just being involved in the day-to-day with Cameron, Jalen, Craig, and my wife, that's enough motivation, right? And then having those 2 athletes who have a chance to go play at the collegiate level, get a free education, and then you throw in, with the NIL and stuff that's going on, it's super exciting, right? So it's definitely motivating, and it keeps me going. But my kids and my wife have made me who I am today.
Well, we talked about where Jalen will be next year. Can you maybe elaborate or maybe talk about, or just a little thing out there about where Cameron would maybe?
So Cameron, we'll be moving to Atlanta, Georgia. We're gonna be going to Overtime Elite down in Atlanta. Playing for RWE. It's one of the top teams down there at Overtime. But just super excited about the opportunity. The development down there at Overtime is close to Division I level, with the access to facilities, resources, access to training is as close to Division I as you can replicate. Right? So the main reason we're going there is for development. Huntington was great for us this year. Don't have nothing. No, it's like we would do it all over again if we could. I felt like Huntington was the best place for Cameron for his freshman year. But there's just bigger and better things out there as far as resources, access to Division I level training, and supplements, and weightlifting. So we're making that move down there to really capitalize on the development and really get prepared to play at the collegiate level.
That's great. We have about another good 1 minute here. I don't know if we want to jump into this next question, but as we come back, possibly from break, my last question will pretty much be, what's the largest takeaway you want for the audience, here that's listening for us? What do you want them to know about him and Jalen personally? We talk about again about being good people, good young men. But again, what is it more important that you just would like people to kind of take away from our conversation, about this, the whole process and things like that, and any advice that you can possibly give to any parents that's out there that be going through this situation? I know there's several other parents in the city that got kids playing at a high level on AAU-wise, girls and boys. So maybe if they're listening, there's something that you can maybe tell them to shed some light, on their experience and stuff like that. We'll talk about a little bit more about that. Right back.
And welcome back to the We Not Boxing In podcast with myself and Melvin Levett. Joining us tonight is Craig Mercer. So, Craig, what advice would you give parents out there who have high school athletes who are going to the next level and playing at the collegiate level? What kind of advice would you give parents out there and how they navigate their children through the process of, getting them to the collegiate level?
Because it's the waters are infested. You know what I mean? I know that you probably know about some of the horror stories of agents coming out of the woodwork and people just want the peace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with the waters being infested as they are, yeah, as Trey talked about how did you guys?
Yeah.
So like I would say one of the biggest pieces of advice, I would say you just, number one, like just enjoy the moment, right? Like everything, I'm trying to just soak it all in. Like I know there's a lot going on, but just really like as a parent, just trying to enjoy every moment and cherish it because like it goes really fast. Like when you look back, like, a couple more years for Jalen, a few more years for Cameron, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Right? So like I would say the number one piece of advice is just truly enjoying the moment. And then I would say the next thing is really keeping your circle as tight as possible.
That's what I was
like,
going to allude to.
It's super important, like to what Melvin was saying about people just coming out the woodworks.
Yeah.
Like I had so many people calling me, trying to be part of the team per se. And you just gotta be around people that you truly trust.
Yeah.
People that's gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Right, that's super important too. So I would say those two things would probably be the two biggest things. Enjoying the moment, every moment because it goes so fast, and then really keeping the circle small because it does get a lot of sharks out there. So.
Through this conversation that we had, which has been very, very enlightening, and for me, I was chomping at the bit for this, ever since we heard that you were going to be on the show because, obviously, man, these two guys are kids that are looked up to, by other peers, on their levels. So we want to definitely shine a spotlight on that and get the story out a little bit more as to what these guys doing in their success. So appreciate you obviously coming on. So
Thanks for
what would be like one of the biggest takeaways that you would want, the viewers, the listeners to know about, Cameron, about Jalen personally?
I would say the number one thing I would like people to know is they're better people and better kids than they are athletes. Character is so important on this journey, right? Like I was talking to Melvin off and on a little bit about the NBA Court of Leaders, right? So Cameron got invited to be part of the NBA Court of Leaders program. It's a mentorship program within the NBA where they kind of hook you up with somebody from the front office, and they do a lot of community service stuff, community outreach, basketball camps, but they focus on like getting you prepared for life after when the ball stops bouncing. But that opportunity came about because of Cameron's character, right? So someone from the NBA spoke with Cameron at USA Basketball, and just from that, they referred Cameron to that program. So that is so important. And like being we had I was telling Melvin about it. We had a Zoom call with the NBA Court of Leaders, kind of like an introduction to all the parents and stuff. And Stephon Castle's parents were on the Zoom, and basically an open book to ask any questions. It was 2 hours long. If people don't know, Stephon Castle is the NBA Rookie of the Year.
They didn't just pick anybody,
right? NBA Rookie of the Year, and like, being able to get that type of advice and information from those type of people is priceless. But one of the big things that stuck out, what Stefan's dad said, is they'll take a sorry, I don't want to say it wrong. They'll take a 10 character with a 7 talent over the vice versa.
Wow.
Right? So like,
Hope you're listening, folks. Hope you're listening.
Like that's probably one of the biggest things that it was a gym, right? Like, and he just spoke about character. Like they'll take a 7 over a 10, over a 10 over a 7, vice versa, from a character standpoint and talent wise. And that's why like that's the biggest thing I want people to know is Cameron and Jalen are better human beings, better people than they are athletes.
And that's the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of these kids, they only see the finish or maybe the ending product of certain things. They don't take in consideration what goes on behind those closed doors that whoever it is putting themselves through to get to where they are. We talk about, again, the work that goes in behind the closed doors. And again, what people don't understand is one of the things is not really put out there is what kind of person really the athlete really is. So again, that behind the closed door thing is where people has got to kind of peek a little bit just to get a chance to obviously see again who that athlete really is truly.
And I harp on the character thing with my kids, just because I just know how important it is from that standpoint. Like it's a game changer, and it's really a separator when you get to the elite level.
Yeah.
Right. Like when we're doing it, like I know people have heard the stories about the private investigators. When you're in the draft, they hire a private investigator. They go all the way back to your middle school. They go ask the people that can't offer you a thing in life if you have nothing to gain from how did you treat them.
Yeah.
Right? Like how did you treat the janitor? Right? How did you treat the game, the equipment manager? Like that stuff is important.
Quick story about that type of situation. I'm in Detroit, in '99. We're going through training camp and things like that, and there were several guys there that were there the previous day that was not there the next day. So you're asking questions about, where's such and such, and what happened with it? Well, one guy was kept because he said yes sir, no sir, more than the other guy.
Wow.
Had nothing to do with skill. Didn't have to do anything with jumping ability, your jump shot, none of that. It came down to what kind of person that young man was. And they chose the young man that displayed the more respectful approach and tone than the guy that came in, didn't have that approach, but yet was still a dog. They took that, again, 7 character-wise over that
10 talent.
10 talent.
It's real.
We got some questions from the audience. I want to get back. I'm going to respond. I want to actually try to jump into that though, with Craig before we go about what you said. But we do got some questions from the audience.
All right, I have a question that somebody sent in the chat. They said, what is your advice on giving a parent, what is your advice on a parent thinking their kid is a D1 player and they're really not?
That's a tough one because there's a lot of that's going on out here as far as like parents thinking their kids are a little better than what they are. Right? There's nothing wrong with not being Division I. Let me start by saying that. Right? There's literally nothing wrong with not being a Division I athlete, right? Because there's multiple. You got D2, you got NAI, you got JUCO. There's a million opportunities. So I want to start by saying not being a Division I athlete is not a negative, right? But there are people who, parents that believe that their kid is Division I and they're not. But a lot of that, like I don't know if parents realize I'll go to the football side. It's measurables.
Yeah.
Right?
Big time.
Like you have to pass the eye test, number one, and then like you have to be a certain size. Like if you're I give you an example. My wife's nephew played at Mount Healthy. This was years ago. He was actually the center for David Montgomery, that plays for the Detroit Lions, right?
Yeah.
He was a 4-year starter at Mount Healthy High School. Really, really good center, but he was 5'11" and 5'10". Right?
Yeah.
You gotta be 6'2", 6'3". So like sometimes it's not the kid's talent.
Yeah.
Like they're not just necessarily not good enough. They just might not have the measurables that they're looking for, right? Basketball wise, they want you to be, 6'5", 6'6",
Yeah.
6'10" wingspan, 6'8" wingspan, right? There's that stuff is eye candy to those people. But just to answer your question, I would say don't never lose the hope of your Division I dreams, because anything can happen, right? There's undersized kids, there's kids that make it against the odds.
Yeah.
But you also have to be realistic with yourself.
And I may get a little controversial what I'm about to say, and I want you guys to respond to this though. And I mentioned earlier about how when it comes to going to the collegiate level or going to the NBA or NFL, it's about character. I do agree with y'all that character matters. But create your football guy as well. We just watched in the NFL draft, the NFL blackball Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. We had all these quarterbacks that were picked before Shedeur, and they tell us don't tell us about skills. It's really sometimes about whether or not these general managers or these people in these at the collegiate level, whether or not they like you or not. So I do believe that it's about character. Being a parent of two athletes, how do you feel about the journey when it comes to people critiquing your sons and about sports in general? Because I feel like Shedeur should have been drafted way before the 5th round. Like, it wasn't, come on now, we know Shedeur was the second best quarterback.
For sure. But the fact is that a lot of these athletes, they're going to go where your career is based on what someone else's perception of you really is. I mean, that's just a fact. Like there's people that's behind closed doors that are scouting or critiquing these guys, and like what they think about you matters.
I hate that though.
And I know it's you may not like it, but
play snap of football or play any basketball in their life.
But it's
There
good.
you go, man.
So your career is based on what someone else thinks about you a lot of the time. That's the truth. So you just have to kind of deal with it as you go along, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because I felt like, and I know they're talking a lot about. I know we've been talking a lot about your sons, of course, and rightfully so. But I just feel like when we look at the draft, I felt like there's no way in hell you can convince me that there are 5 quarterbacks better than Shedeur Sanders.
100%.
It was ridiculous.
Things outside of his skill set
Absolutely.
that matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that definitely plays a part again. Like I said, we talk about social stuff. Talk about a lot of things that go on. Excuse me, off the court, off the field. That plays a part. We talk about again measurables for football players. I alluded to, we had this conversation that the NFL guys, they have all these tests that you got to take. They have these interviews that you got to sit in. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're critiquing you on how you answer this question. You know what I mean? They may throw some curveballs at you, but it's how you answer it and how you deal with it. And when they leave that room, it's how they change their minds and their thoughts about you. So it could have been a couple of those things that really, again, knocked Shedeur down. I don't think it was so much about his talent. Again, we're looking at so many things now when it comes to these athletes as to their marketability and things like that. Again, now this stage, man, these guys are investing so much money, so they're looking at everything.
Yeah, absolutely. They are.
For sure.
They didn't have a problem with Baker Mayfield.
True.
So with Baker Mayfield, when Baker Mayfield shows, he's excited. He
Pick and choose.
Yeah, they pick and choose who they want to critique and critique in a negative way. You know what I'm saying? That's how I always felt like You know, Baker Mayfield is allowed to show, you know, energy and all that stuff. And it's okay when Baker Mayfield does it. It was also okay when Johnny Manziel did it when he was in college. You know what I mean? But it's a problem when Shador Sanders have a big personality. That's the problem for sure.
But yeah, those questions, they're super important. And to just piggyback off of that, to make Team USA, they did interviews at the end.
Oh, really?
One of the questions they asked was, if you were to make this team and be the 12th man, how would you handle it? Right? Wow. Because they know everybody's really, really good, right? So, like, obviously, any one of those kids, 12th man could have been the number one guy, the 10th, you know, any of those kids you could have put on the floor, they would have won a gold, right? But like, those questions, like, that was a real question that they asked, you know, if you made the team and you were the 12th man, you know, how would you react? You know, and that's big.
Yeah. Who you got in the finals, Greg?
I got OKC.
Okay, okay.
I think Indy let one slip away last game. That's gonna hurt them and come back to bite them for the series.
Well, we got the start of it right here, right now, watching it. Obviously, we're still here online with the We Not Boxing podcast. You know, we may be going over a little bit of time and things like that, just to get a couple more things in before it's over. But the finals have started. You know what I mean? It's going to be a pretty exciting game. 5 OKC looks lit. They got the white and blue stands going on.
You got OKC in 6 or 7?
7.
Okay, so you got
7. So we got more.
So you probably got OKC winning tonight. Patient with backing it up.
Yeah, no, we go to a game.
Go to a game.
It's been a great finals.
It has.
It's been an exciting finals.
It really has.
Well, Nicole, you've been out here in the audience. We're talking to Ms. Mercer right now. Is there anything that you would like to add or want anybody to know about your sons or anything like that? Or how has it been for you enjoying this process?
Great question, Bill.
I feel like
I had to get my mic.
I feel like these boys work really hard in their craft. You know, they handle adversity well. There's a lot of smack talking around the city and adults who feel like their kids are, you know, tiers higher than our kids are. But at the end of the day, like, these kids are still kids. I mean, they view that and it just fuels them. So we should all be supporting all these kids out here because they are working hard at whatever level they're on. You know, just the support is what these kids need because they work hard.
Proud mama. I'd imagine so. Well, congratulations on everything. Obviously, congratulations to you too, Greg. It's a wonderful family story. It's something, again, that people should gravitate to because, again, they're ultimately 2 great kids. That's a part of something that's really bigger than them. And they're not brash individuals who act out of the box, so to speak, cocky, you know, throwing their weight around at people and stuff like that, like some of the athletes really take advantage of doing when they have this platform in space. So that has been very impressive to watch them navigate myself as a coach, as a father, as a teacher, education-wise. It's been cool to watch that from your kids. Christian, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck. As I told you, anything you guys got going on here in the city, I would love to help out. You know, you've got some events coming up here that you're going to have in Cam's name. Anything that you're going to do for Jalen, you got to help her and Mr. Melvin Levett because, again, I've been in this city now for almost 25 years, so I'm a Cincinnati, no longer Clevelander.
I used to sit in my uncle's living room and watch it. So it's just cool to be up here and you know, to do this with you. But no, I remember when you was the helicopter. You're still the helicopter, but I remember when the helicopter was still flying, right?
That part.
The helicopter was still flying, but no, it was UC was great. I like that. That's why I'm a Cincinnatian to the death. Bengal fan, Reds fan, Bearcat fan. But no, it was great to watch you as a kid.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much.
And what events do you have coming up? You can let everybody know.
So,
So, the
of course, happy to
audience
chat.
So I would say one thing that I would like everyone to know, August 2nd, Winton Woods High School from 11 to 2. Cameron's going to be presenting a back to school backpack school supply giveaway. Super excited about that. Be able to bless a couple hundred kids, some backpacks, school supplies. I know a lot of kids in the Forest Park area are financially, not right. So we want to provide, some free back to school stuff and really kick this off. This will be our first one, but this is something that we want to continue to do every year.
That's awesome. Any sponsors out there, obviously, that want to get involved locally, get in contact with On Impact Recruiting Services, get in touch with our podcast, or get online socially, and you can contact Craig and them directly about maybe helping out, maybe sponsoring some things, for kids. But go ahead, we were talking about something else, man. I'm an eater. All right, I'm an eater by nature. We were talking about your food truck.
Yes.
All right, can you tell the folks a little bit about your food truck and what you do?
So food truck is called Look. So we've been around since 2021. This will be our 5th food truck season. We're not as active as we've been in years past because of the boys.
Right.
Try to schedule a lot of stuff around their schedules. So we're not just setting up at a random location daily. We do a lot of private stuff during the week.
Okay.
Procter and Gamble. We're going to DHL tomorrow morning. In Hebron. So we're doing Schneider Electric. But we'll be at Taco Fest, which is this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down in Covington. Great event. Come down and see us. But we'll be at Taco Fest down in Covington. And then later on in the year, we have some other events, but you can really follow us on Street Food Finder. Street Food Finder is an app where you can find all the local food trucks around the city. So you get on Street Food Finder or follow us on Facebook to try to keep up with us in our schedule.
You got anything else?
I was going to ask, also, you're a football guy, Craig, and you're a Bengals fan. And so me and Melvin decided we might as well include you in this conversation. So obviously, the Bengals, they drafted Shamar Stewart in the first round, 17th overall pick in this year's NFL draft. Shamar Stewart left mandatory minicamp amid prolonged contract negotiations with the Bengals. And so, just to give also the audience a little bit of details, this agreement between Stewart and the Bengals centers on a clause that the Bengals want to include in the first rounder's rookie deal that would allow the club to avoid future guarantees under certain conditions. The specific language was not in Marius Mills' 2024 rookie deal. That was the Bengals' previous top pick. So, what are your thoughts, Craig, on the situation involving Shamar Stewart and this standoff with the Cincinnati Bengals? And man, I want your opinion on this as well as we close out.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around it because I feel like the Bengals front office has been doing a really good job lately. Kind of picking it up, opening up the pocketbook, paying some guys. But this situation, they're asking this guy to waive some clauses that he's like one of the only first round picks that they want to do.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So I would never encourage that. So I respect the guy. It's his first contract.
That's what I was going to say.
But
First contract.
Yeah, it's his first contract, right? It's got to be right. And I just feel like it's on the Bengals front office to get it done. So I'm kind of disappointed a little bit in the Bengals front office. But like I said, up until this point, I feel like the Bengals front office over the last few years have been doing a great job.
Yeah, as you just alluded to, they have been kind of taking care of business on that back end. When you talk about, getting the players or signing the players long term, or keeping guys around here that need to be around. And just listening to Duke Tobin and a couple other coaches early about getting certain people done contract-wise, they were very adamant about doing that. So again, now being in this position where you have someone who you drafted, not where they need to be because of the contract signing or clauses to risk it. Does it make sense right now?
Got to figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And they've done a good job recently, especially re-signing T. Higgins. But let's be honest, Greg, the only reason why they re-signed T. Higgins was because of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the reason why T. Higgins is still in Cincinnati. It's one of those things when you talk about the standoff between Shamar Stewart and the Bengals. It's one of those situations where the Bengals have a bad reputation when it comes to contract negotiations with their rookies or their star players. And it's almost like that person, like whether it's a man or a woman, they're on their third or fourth marriage and they're going through divorce. Like, this was the first time we making you the benefit of the doubt going through a rough marriage, bro. But this is the fourth time you get married and going through a divorce. So it's like the Bengals. Each and every time the Bengals have contract negotiations with their stars or their rookies, it's always a standoff and some pushback. Like last year, they didn't even want to pay Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the NFL.
And it come back to hurt. It come back to cost them more money.
It did. Imagine they would have paid Chase last year before the season.
They would have saved $20-30 million.
Absolutely.
But that's the part. I mean, that's the game, right?
Yeah.
I wish they would get this done. I want to see the guy. I want to see the guy in a Bengal uniform, Shamar Stewart. I'm excited about this season. I'm a season ticket holder.
Okay.
So I got season tickets to the Bengals. So I'm a diehard fan. So I'm super duper excited.
And they also are going through a contract negotiation standoff with their best defensive player, Trey Henderson.
And I just seen a report today that the contract negotiations resumed. I don't know if you've seen that.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
So the contract negotiation, I think they'll get that one done.
They should. But I'm actually on that one, though, Craig. I'm actually a little bit on the Bengals side because Trey Henderson, he's in his 30s. He wants to get paid like a Micah Parsons, like a TJ Watt. But you in your 30s. So if I'm the Bengals, I feel like we'll give you a nice 2-year deal, guaranteed. And because the Bengals got, let's be honest, with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, they got 2 years to get it done, maybe 3 at the most. This is their window right now. This is their window. So
100%.
I feel like you want to bring and get Henderson back into the mix because let's be honest, man, me and Bill talk about this all the time. The Bengals defensively, they were the worst team in the NFL last year. I mean, they were the worst team in the NFL. Me, you, Dante, and Mel can go out and put some points up against that Bengals defense.
So let me say this. Let me say this.
They were bad last year.
So let me say this. Who wins championships?
Defense, man.
They better damn.
Defense wins championships for sure. I agree. And the thing is, though, you can't be as bad as the Bengals were. You got to at least be mediocre.
For sure. But it was in part like we were so bad defensively last year, starting 1-4.
Yeah.
But to still be in the playoff conversation all the way until week 17 after digging that big of a hole.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of confidence going into this year because I just feel like we're not going to start 1-4 again. Right? Like that type of start is really, really hard to get out of. So not starting off 1-4, hitting the ground running to start this year, I think we're gonna be fine. We're gonna put up a lot of points.
I would hope so. Last year, the Bengals defense, they finished bottom 10 in yards and points allowed, and they were 25th in sacks. So they got to get off to a better start. And I've said in the past, Craig, what the hell is Dak Taylor doing in the offseason? What is going on? That's why the Bengals, they finished 9-8 last year. They lost week 1 to the Patriots. That's why the Bengals missed the playoffs last year, folks. They lost week 1 to the Patriots. That's why they missed the playoffs.
So the Baltimore game hurt us too.
That did
So
too.
we were up 10 points
Was that the one in Baltimore or here?
in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Up 10 points twice.
Yeah.
Like 2 different times late in the game.
Yeah.
You gotta close that out.
Absolutely. But I do believe that there should be an investigation about what the hell Zach Taylor's doing in the offseason. They got to get out to better starts. For sure.
That's the thing. The start of the season is a key for those guys. I mean, once they get things going, man, they're rolling. It's a train that really can't be stopped with a lot of the pieces that they do have. So early starts for them, I think, is the key.
Absolutely.
Because if they get late, they're going to be depending on the Bengals to be where they need to be towards later in the season and compete. So my thing for them, man, if you start well, it's obviously going to end well because it has the last couple of years. But it just hasn't ended well with them not being where they need to be.
They need Shamar Stewart and Trey Henderson in training camp when it begins. Beggars can't be choosers. They were the worst defense in the NFL last year. They need their brothers in camp for sure. But before we get out of here, Craig, let everybody know where they can find you on social media and where they can find Jalen and Cameron on social media as well.
So let me see if I can do this off the top of my head. My Instagram is Coach Craig 3. I know Cam is Killer Cam 2028.
Okay.
I know he's a lot more popular than I am. Jalen is Jalen _ Mercer, I believe. Don't quote me on these though, just off the top of my head. But very easy to find on social media. I know Cameron's got close to 60,000 followers, so shouldn't have a problem finding on social media.
Get online, man.
I think Jalen's is underscore.
Oh,
The
sorry,
Jalen
underscore
Yeah.
Jalen Mercer. I put the underscore in the wrong spot. Sorry about that, son.
Well, it looks like we got the finals have already started. I mean, I think it looked like OKC's up 22 or 23 to 12 or 14 or something like that.
23-14.
23-14. So OKC's off to, a fast start. Doesn't look like the Pacers are on pace for that 1-11 I was thinking about. So it might be in for a long night. But it was a pleasure, Craig, man. Again, just to
100%. Thanks for
learn a little bit more about, obviously the boys and what they're going through, what their future plans and things like that are like. But then, sitting with here, you personally, getting to know you personally. I see you online a lot and see you at some of the events. But having this opportunity to have this conversation with you, man, was real cool, very enjoyable. Appreciate the compliment, man. And again, congrats on all the success, that you guys are experiencing and what's next for you, because it's only going to get better. Stay humble. Keep those two guys very humble. But as we talk about what they are taking away from their older brother and you as parents, they're watching the examples. So I don't think you guys got anything to worry about as far as how they're going to be as young men a little bit later in life.
He's the former assistant basketball coach at Huntington Expression Prep Basketball, the father of the Mercer boys, Craig Mercer. Craig, appreciate you coming on tonight. For sure, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was great.
Hey, before we get out of here real quick, man, I got to give a definite shout out. As I talked about earlier, I was coach of the year this year at the West Miller basketball camp.
Okay.
This is my 5th year in.
Yeah.
And I don't think I got the Coach of the Year award for what I did this year. I think it was a culmination of the last couple of years. I won a couple of titles as camp coach, 2 years in a row. I went back to back. So that had a lot to do with this. But I was so excited, man, obviously, to be down there at West Miller's basketball camp and having a chance to reintroduce myself to another generation of kid. And I just wanted to shout out my guys here real quick from Akron, the mid-majors, because we were really putting it in down there. And I don't think I'd have got this coaching award without you. So I'm going to go ahead and just name each of you really quick before we get out of here. We got Zeke Mueller, we got Hudson Coffey, James Pinball, Jake Reithma, Will Weissman, Will Fisher, Graham Everingham, Brent Hecker, Eli Miles, and Nash Aaron. Guys, thank you so much. I don't have the trophy here with me tonight, but if I could have, I'd have had it right here on the desk. But I appreciate y'all. I hope I see you youngsters next year at West Miller's Basketball Camp 2026. This is Melvin Levett, Team Akron. All right, helicopter. We are out.
And don't forget also, Friday, July the 18th, we got the Volleyball Showcase at West High. That's the Volleyball Showcase, Friday, July the 18th. And the following day, Saturday, July the 19th, is the 3rd annual Stop the Violence Boxing Expo. The 3rd annual Stop the Violence Boxing Expo. Any more information on that, reach out to On Impact Recruiting Services. And don't forget, each and every Monday, it's the We Not Box In podcast with yours truly, Trey Larkin, Mr. Melvin Levett himself, each and every Monday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. here at Park Place. We would love to have y'all come out and come in here and debate some different sports topics with us. Come here and let's talk about it. Football, basketball, you name it. Come in here. And any high school athletes as well, come in here. We can talk about your particular sports as well. Any closing thoughts, Mel, before we get out here?
I think we've been doing a pretty good job these last several weeks, man. Again, it's an exciting opportunity that Park Place has given us to be out here, just kind of have a platform where we can showcase and highlight some of the local things and obviously some of the things that's going on nationally. So again, shout out to Park Place for having us, and want to continue to do big things, and we're looking for the next set of guests for the next couple weeks. So if you want to be on the show, contact either one of us personally.
Yep.
Through our Facebook or our feeds. Contact Dante Payne over at OIR. All right, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. And go and follow Wise Guys Sports on our social media platforms as well. We'll see y'all next week on the We Not Boxing podcast.
Enjoy Game 5.